Alongside Miranda Khan, J.D. Hayworth back with you on America's Forum. The feds arrest an Air Force veteran who allegedly was trying to join ISIS. Tyrod Nathan Webster Pugh, age 46, allegedly flew from Egypt to Turkey, hoping to get into Syria to fight alongside ISIS.
The FBI discovered this email on his laptop. Take a look at it. There you go. Quote, I am Mujahid. I am a sword against the oppressor and a shield for the oppressed. I will use the talents and skills given to me by Allah to establish and defend the Islamic states. There is only two possible outcomes for me, victory or martyr.
For more on this story, let's turn to two guests, General Paul Vallely, chairman of Stand Up America, and Scott Mann, a retired lieutenant colonel of the U.S. Army Special Forces. Paul, first to you, why on earth would a veteran do this?
Well, I think it goes back several decades, even to the early 90s, when we had some of the radicalized members of our armed forces, if you remember, in Saudi Arabia, the 101st Airborne Division. So it goes back a while. We've been totally infiltrated, no doubt about it, JD, not only into our government, the military, but Department of Homeland Security. The Muslim Brotherhood is thoroughly backing all of this infiltration and spending the money to radicalize these people, these cells in the United States.
Scott, how common is this?
I'm sorry, did you ask the question again, please?
Yeah, I'm just curious, how common is this?
Well, I mean, like the General said, we've had incidents like this, for the last couple of decades. And it's not, I mean, in the context of the size of our military and the quality and character of our military, it's actually pretty uncommon. It is something you always have to be on guard for, as radicalization can occur anywhere. I think what I'm more concerned probably about is the radicalization that's going on inside America that we're not seeing, like on our streets. Quite a few folks from the gangs, street gangs, are being radicalized, brought over to fight and then come back home. And it's those returning jihadists that really pose a threat, I think, here in the U.S. at a local level.
And mindful of what can happen at the local level, Paul, we understand that Mr. Pugh came to the attention of law enforcement after one of his co-workers heard Mr. Pugh express sympathy for Osama bin Laden. How important is it for Americans to remain vigilant in basically every conversation in the workplace or elsewhere?
Well, all of us, JD and Miranda, are the eyes and ears in our communities, and especially the studies we've done on the mosques that are being built, that they're really Trojan horses out there in many ways as they recruit people through these mosques throughout the United States. Particularly also the focus on our prison system, where the prisoners are being educated and radicalized as well. So when they come out, they actually have training centers in the United States where they're training these jihadis. And the FBI does have a list of those, but they need to be taken out and neutralized immediately as soon as they're found out.
Scott, Pugh is due back in federal court today. And just looking at his career, he has served previously in the U.S. Air Force as an instrument specialist. He was trained in aircraft engine navigation and weapon systems maintenance. How concerned are you that he may have shared inside military information with ISIS?
Maybe some. I mean, again, I'm looking at this from the lens of, what kind of, real, damage the guy could do with what he possibly knows and shares. And maybe a little, I don't know that ISIS or others could act on it. If he shared it, I'd be more concerned if he shared it like with, with the Russians or something like that type of information based on his background. I mean, as a support kind of guy. If he was still on active duty now, you would be talking about a much higher risk because of the guy's access and placement, next to aircraft or getting onto installations. This was a guy who was marginalized. He had some grievances going on, and he self-selected to move into the radicalization sphere. And we've got to always be on guard for that, because the guys and gals will radicalize from all kinds of directions. The last thing I'd like to say on this that really concerns me is that I think as a country, our administration kind of just shrugs its shoulders at something like this and just kind of ignores the power of narrative and story of how this draws people in. We're not paying attention to it, and these guys are recruiting hard, and they're going to get some people that are well placed if we're not careful.
Well, we will continue to follow this story and see what else develops because, gentlemen, you're telling us we need to be aware of this reality and the threat that may exist within the veteran community or sadly within our own armed forces. When we come back, the battle of the budget, how it will affect our ability to continue fighting. Back on America's Forum, let's continue the conversation now with retired Army Major General Paul Vallely, who's currently the chairman of Stand Up America, and Scott Mann, retired Lieutenant Colonel for the U.S. Army Special Forces. Gentlemen, a couple of comments that we need to revisit from that first segment. Scott, first to you on radicalization beyond our military. What have you seen? Is there hard evidence out there of increasing radicalization among American citizens?
Oh yeah, I think there's no doubt about that. I think you're seeing. I mean, we don't know the exact numbers, but there's certainly guys and gals being recruited to go abroad, and also there are guys and gals being recruited locally, like the general said, who then can act right here in the U.S. The thing is, and this is what I think we've got to get our head around. You don't necessarily have to go anymore to the Northwest Frontier Province or the border of Pakistan to learn how to make a bomb or to learn how to do damage. You can read Inspire magazine, which is an Al-Qaeda document generated out of Yemen that has a nice glossy photo cover that you'd probably mistake in a grocery store, and you can learn how to do those things. The Boston bombers got a lot of inspiration and technical guidance from that magazine. So yes, it is happening. The shooting in Copenhagen is another example of a gangbanger who was radicalized in prison and then created an attack right there in Copenhagen. So yeah, it is growing, and I think it will continue to grow as ISIS recruiting and ISIS Al-Qaeda reach expands.
General, can you talk to us a little bit about these training centers? Have you actually seen or heard about them happening here in the U.S.?
Yes, Miranda, and it has been publicized, and you can actually Google and get some of those locations. One's, of course, not too far from New York City up there in southern New York, but we had one out west here in Oregon that was busted up and taken down. So there is a list of them. The FBI has those lists. We're tracking, as far as I know, the recruitment that goes in to those training centers. They have guns, they have ammunition, they have firing areas where they go out and practice.
Paul, sorry to interrupt.
They also have instruction. Yeah,
Paul, sorry
sure.
to interrupt, but if they've got the list, why haven't the feds taken them down?
Well, that's a good question. Why haven't they been taken down everywhere, JD? And I would like to get a report from the FBI. Have they closed all of them? Have they purged all of them? We need to find that out. That's a great question.
Let's turn now to Veterans Affairs, to the budget fight. And let's begin with the vets and health care. Jeff Miller, who chairs the Veterans Committee, upset that the VA still is withholding documents requested by the House. Let me ask you about this question. Scott, are you satisfied with veteran spending and what's going on with the VA?
No, I think we've got a lot of work to do on that, and I talked with a lot of my nonprofit work. I talked to a lot of veterans who are either in transition or in the process of it, and there are still a lot of issues with the VA and with the health care that's being provided. I mean, at a soldier, airman, Marine kind of level, seaman level, it's not good, and we've got a long way to go on that. I'm still looking to see a lot of improvements in that area.
General, the budget presented by Chairman Tom Price may struggle to gain support within a divided House. On the one hand, it boosts military spending. On the other hand, it skirts sequester spending caps. Your thoughts on this budget?
Well, I've said for quite a while, Miranda, the budget in the military, and I can say this from being a commander, works from top down and bottom up. The commands have to submit their budget request to support their mission. On the other hand, we're doing it backwards at the federal level. We have to look at what the threats are to America and our national security today and tomorrow. And then we have to build the force structure to counter those threats: Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, etc. And then you have to have the readiness, the training. And somewhere in between, those budgets from top down, bottom up, come together. But we have to look at this based on what is the threat to the United States, and do we have the force structure and the readiness to counter those threats and protect America? That's the bottom line.
And while the debate continues, there is no argument over the fact that Budget Committee Chairman Dr. Tom Price of Georgia has a very tough job. Paul, to you and to Scott, our thanks, and we're coming right back.